everybody. Welcome to Your Capital What's Up. I'm Chuck Wiger, your area state senator. Thank you very much for watching. Today we're going to learn about area history, specifically Maplewood area, and who better to talk to than Pete Boulay, a historian, lives in Maplewood, has written a book about Maplewood, active in a number of commissions. Welcome to our show, Pete.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Good. Now, Pete, you live in Maplewood and roots in the area. Grew up, I believe, in St. Paul before you migrated across the border.
Yep, when I was in kindergarten or first grade, came over to Maplewood and been there ever since.
Okay, where'd you move? Well, tell us. In St. Paul, where'd you live? East side?
I lived right around Maryland and Rice area, and then went to St. Bernard's for kindergarten there, and then came over to presentation in Maplewood for first grade.
Okay, where in Maplewood did you live?
Gladstone, of course. Right in the heart of Maplewood, downtown Maplewood, so to speak. So right on Faust Avenue.
Okay. And what your parents? What was the driver to get them to move to Maplewood?
You know what? Good question. Probably. I think the housing was pretty affordable back then. I think my mom wanted a one-level house. Okay. We were in a story and a half, and and just looking for a better home.
What street in Gladstone area?
Frost and Dieter. My parents still live there, so they're still there today.
Okay. Any siblings, brother or sister?
Yep, one sister. Yep.
Very good.
Yep. So.
And went to school then. Tell us about that journey.
Yep. I went to presentation and went to Hill Murray, and then was interested in meteorology. So I went out to college first I went to Century for 2 years, and then I went to St. Cloud State for meteorology, and that's where I took a history course. Minnesota history course.
Yes.
And it was do a story of your city. Well, I did that, and I started looking into Maplewood, and then I found there was a much more interesting story going back further in time that there was a city before Maplewood called Gladstone.
Yes.
So that's when I started getting interested in that and doing some interviews of old
residents. Actually, in high school, didn't you write a paper on it, or maybe it was germinating the interest in history?
You know what? I have to say, I found history very boring in school for the most part. I had a hard time focusing on history, but I did like Minnesota history.
Okay.
I always did.
Okay.
I found a little bit of history. I had a really good history teacher in 8th grade, Hannah Stolen.
Hey, let's give her name again.
Hannah Stolen.
Okay.
And she escaped from Germany, as the communists were coming in.
Yes.
So she got out of Germany, and she was wonderful for teaching history.
Oh,
and she was the first teacher I had that really got me interested in history. That history is neat, it's interesting, and it affects your life, and you don't want to repeat it. Right. So there's lots of lessons to be learned from history.
Okay. And so you mentioned the work. Just professionally, we should acknowledge that you're the assistant climatologist for the state of Minnesota.
Yep.
Tell us about that, and then we're going to get into some Maplewood history. But as the assistant state climatologist,
sure. I after graduating from St. Cloud State, I got a job in a private weather company in Burnsville, and then I always had that interest in history, and then when the position came up at the state climatology office, I liked working with the media, and I liked history, and it seemed to be a great fit for the climate office, because then instead of forecasting the future, I look at the past.
Yes.
And in our office, our windows face east, so we always see the weather that's already happened. Okay. So it's kind of a good setting for our office. So that's how I went up there.
Okay. Yep. Future show, we'll talk more about that. It's fascinating what you do in your professional life. Yeah. But even more intriguing, I believe, is the work that you do on history. Yeah. And you wrote a book about Maplewood.
Yep.
The Lost City?
Lost City of Gladstone.
Okay.
Yep.
In fact, did you have
I
a copy?
got it kind of here. This is
okay.
This is the copy.
Hold it up.
I made like a special copy, for myself to they'll stand up the test of time here. So Lost City of Gladstone. Kind of a history of Maplewood from the beginnings.
Okay.
And this started out really as a college paper.
Okay, so in college.
Yeah, in college, this was it. And then I kind of expanded a bit over time, and included more pictures and more interviews, and it just kind of took off from there. And if I rewrote it today, it'd probably be about 3 times as thick as this. There's just so much out there. What inspired me to do this too is, I read one of the Maplewood pamphlets and said there isn't much history in Maplewood.
Okay.
Yeah. And I go, well, that's not really true. It's just nobody's really explored it yet. So there's a lot of history in Maplewood. So.
Okay. Well, you have several pictures that we're going to have on the screen briefly. The book has it, and we'll make reference later to the some of the activities of the Historical Society, as well as the Commission, the city's involvement, Bruntrip Farm, and just so many things to preserve history, the importance of that. But how about if we take a look at some of the photos?
Yeah.
Prior to the formation of Maplewood, I believe Maplewood was incorporated in 1958?
57. Yeah, close. Yep. 57. Okay. And it was kind of a rush to incorporate because at that time, St. Paul, there's a law in the books that you could annex a township.
Yes.
To add to your city. And there was a piece of land on the east side, just on the outside the borders of St. Paul, that had a manufacturing facility that was something St. Paul would like to have within it.
3M, of course.
3M, you're absolutely right. And there was a couple of state legislative folks that lived in Maplewood at the time, and they kind of helped the city get going on this. And they kind of said, well, you better incorporate or you're going to lose your tax base.
Yes, Maplewood would have just been annexed to St. Paul had it
not all of it, though. That's the catch.
Okay.
Is St. Paul just wanted the 3M area.
The 3M.
If St. Paul wanted all of the township, it might have happened. But I think they're only interested in the south leg, so to speak, of Maplewood. So they incorporated, and that's why Maplewood has that strange shape, because they included all the bits and pieces that were left over.
It's a very good point. I mean, a lot of people wonder why that shape.
Why a shape? Well, it's because it's part of two townships.
Yes.
It used to be a McLean Township. McLean that St. Paul annexed over the years.
Yes.
And all that was left was a 1 mile strip, and they couldn't.
The south
leg, the big long strip. And so that got absorbed into New Canada Township because they couldn't run a township government with so few people left.
Okay. So let's take a look at some pictures.
Let's look at that.
And the viewers will hear us now, but there's one of the Gladstone New Canada Town Hall. Tell us about that.
Well, when in 1858 the townships were created in the state, and around the Twin Cities, fledgling Twin Cities, these townships were created, and New Canada was created because of Little Canada, the people from French descent there.
Yes.
And the New Canada Town Hall was located there in Little Canada at first. Then in the late 1800s, it was moved to the north shore of Fayalna Lake.
Okay.
And in 1900, in the winter, they picked up the town hall and moved it to and plunked it down on Frost Avenue.
Okay. You can see the boards there, right?
See the boards there. On the windows. Yep. And so this was the hub of the activity in the town for many years.
Do you know when this picture, our first one was taken?
This picture here is. I'm going to say it was probably in the 1930s or 40s.
Okay.
There's a speed limit sign, you can barely see it, that says 30 miles an hour on Frost Avenue there.
Okay.
So Frost Avenue, I think, was paved by this time. So.
Okay. But maybe some horses?
Oh, yeah, there's probably still definitely horses.
Oh,
yeah. I even talked to people that remember the rag picker.
Okay.
A person would come on a horse-drawn wagon and look for rags and yell, rags, rags, and people would bring out their rags and sell them to the rag picker. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That was a 1930s era kind of thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, even then, there were still some horses. And
okay, and the town hall again?
Yep, this is, toward the end of its life. This is in the 1950s. Right before Maplewood was created. You can see one big difference is a lot more telephone poles and things around, and homes in the background there.
Where was this station then?
This is right around Frost and Clarence, and that building's still there.
Yes.
But they moved it across the street, put a brick facade on it, and it was the Gladstone Catering House for years.
Donna Funk?
Donna Funk ran it, yep. And so the house is still there, but now
that was the town hall, though, for
that was the town hall,
many years.
Many years. And then, obviously the town outgrew it, and and they got better places after that. So
the Faust Store.
Faust Store. Okay, this was really the heart and soul of Gladstone for quite a few years, from about 1900 to the late 1920s.
On Frost Avenue?
Frost Avenue. This is Frost Avenue. It's still a dirt road back then. It wasn't paved until the 1920s. And that little a little horse-drawn cart there is a mail wagon.
Oh, okay.
And at one time, Gladstone had a post office.
Okay.
Maplewood does not have a post office, so it's ironic that
Yes.
Gladstone had one, but Maplewood never got a post office. And Mrs. Faust was the postmaster there,
Okay.
and that was the post office and general store right there.
Okay.
So
We have the depot and
the depot, and why does the depot say Gloucester and not Gladstone, you might
Yes.
wonder. And if you look there, there was an identity issue. Maplewood has an identity issue today. Do you live in Maplewood or Maple Grove? People might ask you. But back then, do you live in Gloucester or do you live in Gladstone?
Okay.
And the reason why is because there was a Gladstone, Michigan on the same railroad line as Gladstone, Minnesota.
Okay.
And people, when they shipped freight, went to the wrong Gladstone. Back then, people would ship their laundry to St. Paul to get cleaned, and it would wind up in Michigan. So the railroad said, okay, fine, we'll change the name of your city to Gloucester. They just made up a name out of nowhere and just picked Gloucester. Well, the residents didn't like that. So they still called it Gladstone, even though the railroad continued to call it Gloucester up until, right up to the end of the railroad going through there. So yeah, that's the ad. That's an ad in the St. Paul paper, I think. At the
the
time.
Gladstone Hotel.
Yeah, the Gladstone Hotel, either in Michigan or Minnesota, but it's
Yes.
supposed to be Minnesota. So,
Right.
so even that they have problems with.
Okay. And the Gloucester Depot.
Gloucester Depot. This is in the 1920s. You can see there's two railroad lines. This is the Bruce Vento Trail today, where it intersects with the Gateway Trail.
Yes.
So it was quite the hub of activity back then. And on the far left-hand side, the only thing still remaining today, there's a fence you can see on the left-hand side that's still there.
Yeah.
So it must have been a really well-built fence. And it just kind of shows how wide open the area used to be. There were very few trees back then. So very wide
And
open.
next, the section house.
Yep, section house. And the other
Gloucester.
Gloucester Depot, which was, there's two railroad lines that ran through Gladstone, Northern Pacific, and the Wisconsin Central became the Sioux line later. And this little depot was the other one on the Sioux line that was kind of going west to east. And that section house on the left is still there today, but it was moved to Barclay Street and Frost. So you can go see it today. Just look for the two chimneys. You'll know you're looking
about
at the
that?
right. Yep. The house is
Barclay
still
and
there.
Frost.
Barclay and Frost, yep, on the north side there.
Gloucester Shops.
Gloucester Shops. Well, this was a town that was supposed to rival St. Paul. And William Dawson, who founded the town of Gladstone, had his business, the Plow Works, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it enticed the railroad to move their railroad shops to Gloucester, the St. Paul and Duluth Railroad. Moved their shops there. Immediately they realized it was a huge mistake because it's all uphill to Gladstone.
Yeah.
So it added tremendously to the cost of their freight. So they were a little bitter about that, and then when Northern Pacific took over the St. Paul and Duluth Railroad, they spent the next 15 years trying to get rid of these shops. But at one time, 100 or 200 men worked there.
Wow.
Yep. So, and that's at the corner. That's the Gladstone Savannah today.
Yes.
Is where that is. So that corner is English and Frisbee. That little sign there.
Okay.
And
And the plow.
The plow company. Yep. It was William Dawson's plow company, this is the town would have made it if it wasn't for a couple things that happened to this plow company. In 1892, around Thanksgiving, there was a huge fire and burned this place to the ground. And it was so bright it woke up the people in North St. Paul to it with a big glow on the horizon. And the guy in that depot, you can see it there in the bottom there, it says Gladstone on it.
Yes.
It was frantic that the whole town was going to go up in flames. So he wired St. Paul asking for an emergency fire engine to be sent out there, but there wasn't much they could do by the time they got there. It was pretty much gone. So, but they rebuilt and still continued into the early 1900s.
And again, the location of the plow company.
Okay, this is if you're standing
See the tracks.
Yep. That's the on the left is the Bruce Vento Trail, and right below it is the Gateway Trail, where they intersect the northeast corner. That's where this was.
Okay. The Poor Farms.
Which is still there.
The 40s.
Not called the Poor Farm anymore,
Right,
of course.
but originally
Yep.
that's what it was referred
Originally,
to.
that's what it was, and it was the first poor farm in the state, and it was considered one of the best.
Yeah. White Bear Avenue, of course, up by
White Bear Avenue in
Frost.
Frost is where it still is, and that superintendent house you see in the foreground there is still in existence, but they
Yes.
moved it. It's now on Harris Street, right off of Hazelwood.
Okay.
So if you can find Harris Street, the building looks still the same today.
Yes.
Yep.
And the Poor Farm
Barn.
Which is still there.
Still there, and
in
it's
the Ramsey County.
Yep, Ramsey County Fairgrounds. Yep, which is coming up real quick.
Yes.
And this is the only building in Maplewood that's on the National Register of Historic Places. There's no other structure in Maplewood. So it's a great architectural design built around 1918, and it was quite well done at the time. It was quite a landmark.
Good.
It still is today.
Yeah, and there's some very informative plaques around there when you walk around.
You can see it.
The cemetery.
The cemetery. Yep, we worked hard to preserve the cemetery,
Yes.
so now you can read about it. And there's a couple thousand people still buried there
Yes.
today. So very interesting.
We have
Pure
a gas
Oil.
station, the Pure Oil
Yes.
gas station.
I included this one because it's kind of interesting that it shows how small the gas stations were back then, and you could get kerosene and ethyl and strange things to put in your car that you never think of today. And what's interesting about this picture is on the right-hand side there is where they used to change the oil right over the ground.
Okay.
Of course, the environmental things were a little different back in the 20s.
Sure.
And then, of course, there's only one outhouse for women only. So I don't know where the men went, but they had to figure it out.
And where was this?
This was on the
station?
corner of Frost and English, basically where the parking lot for the Moose Lodge is today. In the far distance
right
there,
by the Moose Lodge.
Yep, by the Moose Lodge, and then far distance is where Keller Golf Course would be to the left there.
So gas is probably going for how much a gallon?
It's probably not $3.50. It's probably about a quarter. So a little cheaper back then.
Okay. The Gladstone Sign?
Gladstone Sign, they had these on Frost Avenue. The iron foundries of Gladstone created these signs. I think the Gladstone Shops created these. So if you're driving on Frost Avenue back then by Highway 61, you'd see a sign like this showing you where to go and to get to Gladstone. So it's kind of a neat sign. Just kind of show where things were.
And of course the tourist cabins.
Tourist cabins. Many people remember the tourist cabins. And this was a sign that was right on Highway 61, right by Frost Avenue there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of a nice landmark. It was a well-done sign. Mm-hmm. The tourist cabins start out, they were really cabins on the north shore of Lake Phalen. Mm-hmm. And people would go there and stay there for, to escape the summer heat.
Yes.
Back in the 20s and 30s, and now it became a mobile home park that's now wiped off the face of the earth. You can't see where it was at all anymore. Yes. So it's gone. But during when they had golf, professional golf at I want to say what's the
Keller?
Yeah, St. Paul Open
or the St. Paul
Keller.
Open.
Yep. Some of the golfers would stay at the tourist cabins back then. So so they got good use there.
Excellent. Old Betsy.
Old Betsy. Well, as they got a note in World War II, the citizens of New Canada, Gladstone, saying, if there is an enemy attack, we can no longer provide fire service for your area. So they're worrying about enemy attack in World War II. Mm-hmm. So that was one reason why the citizens got together. A lot of fundraising, all grassroots stuff, going door to door, and they purchased a fire truck and built a nice home for old Betsy there. Mm-hmm. And so there was this was the first fire station in Maplewood back then, and Little Canada soon followed.
Okay. And here we have the Maplewood and
Maplewood logo.
The maple leaf.
Maple leaf. Yep. And so that was the first logo for Maplewood. Somebody just traced a maple leaf they found in their backyard.
And actually, I had an opportunity to interview once the first mayor of Maplewood, Waldo Baldy Lubin.
Yes.
And he told me he picked that leaf off one of the trees, the maple, in his backyard.
That's right. Absolutely right. Yep. Waldo Lubin loved maple trees.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why the name Maplewood was chosen. Mm-hmm.
That's something, the power of that. I like maple trees, and we're going to pick the leaf, and here we are.
Yep.
Okay, and the first maple tree.
First maple tree planted in Maplewood. I'm trying to remember who all the people are in the picture. Ed O'Mara is on the right. I know that. And that's either Waldo Lubin or who am I thinking? Who was the second mayor of Maplewood?
We'll ask our viewers to remind it, and that will come to mind.
Somebody will tell us.
I think that is Waldo, but especially
be
if
right.
it's commemorating the first tree.
Yes, that's what I'm guessing.
We will double check that and ask the viewers to contact you with that.
Oh, yeah,
information,
everybody
or
will tell us,
myself
yeah.
as well.
And the maple tree's still there.
Yes.
Yes, it's a little bigger now, though.
Okay, and the location of
This is it's just right around the Ripley area in Gladstone, one of the side streets. I can't remember if it's Barclay or Manton, but one of the.
Good. And the Bruntrup Heritage Farm.
Yes, a lot of people probably remembers where the Bruntrup Farm used to be, right across the street from Maplewood Mall.
Yes, White Bear Avenue.
Yeah, White Bear Avenue. So there was a group of us got together, and there was fundraising going on and trying to save the Bruntrup Farm. And what we wound up doing is moving the farm to its current location, right off County Road D.
Yes, I remember the big event, and actually I'll mention the legislature was involved as well with some historic funding. Now Congressman Woman McCullum was the author in the House, and I carried the bill in the Senate to provide some incentives and matching dollars if a certain amount of contributions and volunteerism would be done, because we didn't want to see the farm just tore down. Definitely. And so thanks to primarily the volunteers, it was relocated, and what a success story.
Yes, we are very blessed to have people that know something about wood and metal, and they have connections with the trades, and they really did a great job. I mean, it looks as good as it did on White Bear Avenue.
Yes.
You know.
And here we have the barn.
The barn, yep.
And it is looking so good,
it's
and now up to code, and you can sponsor events.
Yep. Now there's weddings there at the Bruntrup Farm, and we're having a special exhibit on Gladstone too. We've got a grant to work on an exhibit of Gladstone, so some pictures I've never seen before are part of this exhibit. So we'll have more activities for that this summer.
Okay. Well, for our viewers that would like to learn more about Maplewood history, there are organizations which you're in a leadership role. Would you like to mention the work of the Commission as well as the Historical Society?
Yep. There's a Maplewood Historical Society that meets every second Wednesday at the Bruntrup Farm. If you'd like to go there and check it out sometime, be more than welcome to do it. You can Google Maplewood Historical Society. You'll find the website.
A lot of events.
A lot of events going on. Johnny Appleseed Day will be coming up pretty soon this summer.
And actually, though, throughout the year.
Throughout the year,
there's different things, and in addition to the photos, you have, the stories, the actual tools that may have been used. There's so many displays in the different parts of the farm. I am so impressed with the farmhouse.
Yes,
when
the
you go
farmhouse
inside, and then the food is just wonderful.
Food's always good.
When they put together things for the public, and it's all volunteers.
Yes, we got an incredible bunch of volunteers up there, and the Bruntrups are still involved, which is really great because you have that connection to the history.
Yep,
and they've always been very active, and it's we have more events. We're going to have some open houses coming up too. So definitely check out the website, see what's going on that's current, and and check us out. Just drive down. Past the mall and see what the farm looks like. County Road D there, and see what it looks like.
Yeah, excellent example of why you need to preserve history, those memories, and then I've enjoyed seeing so many young people taking an interest as well. A lot of the volunteerism has been seniors, but younger people like yourself, and then even the students now in school that are learning about this are fascinated. Maybe they had never seen a dairy cow, or wanting to just know what Maplewood was like back sometime.
It's hard to believe they did dairy farming where Maplewood Mall is. That's basically it, and it's kind of neat to see that history come alive there. So they really have a lot there to look at.
Now, if people, again, want to learn more about the activities, they can just go to the websites and Google the appropriate information. They could call the city. The city website as well
city
has
website
information. And or maybe someone too has pictures that they haven't, or like you maybe could make a copy of them, but to just add it to a part of the history, and collectively it just adds to a better reflection of what we have.
Yeah, we don't have any good pictures of Gladstone from the 19th century, the 1800s. there's very few pictures. So any pictures anybody has of the Gladstone area, we'd love to see them. You know, and on the historical commission I'm part of too. You know, we're working on that kind of thing as well, the Maplewood past and things like that too. So.
Well, wonderful. We appreciate your sharing those wonderful insights on Maplewood history, the book, The Lost City of Gladstone. If someone would like to you know, see a copy of that or to purchase, is that at the library?
Well, you can see it at the library, see at the
Okay.
library, and there's some for sale at the, you know, at the
Very modest about that, but they are available if one would like to get it. And if you like these pictures, you'll like learning more about that too. And maybe
I'll have 2 walking tours in Gladstone too. First 2 Saturdays in August. First one will be a walking tour of Gladstone itself. The next one will be a walking tour of the Poor Farm grounds. So we have more activities coming up.
Wonderful. And if there could be other times of the year, other activities that we mentioned for Bruntrip as well as other parts of the community.
Lots of things going on.
Good. And just on a personal note, we had mentioned, in addition to all your volunteerism, you're the Assistant State Climatologist, and you live in Maplewood, your family. You want to share a little bit about that? You're over by Coleman Lake?
Oh, yeah, right by Coleman Lake. You know, I grew up at Wakefield Lake.
Yes.
You know, basically I hung out at Wakefield Lake when I was a kid. That's where we always went, down to the lake. And, you know, now
favorite memory you'd like to share about the Wakefield Lake?
Oh, probably the 4th of July celebration we always had there, and the fireworks over Wakefield Lake, and we you know, that was always a great time. It, you know, it was a sleepy park except for the 4th of July. It was full of people. I mean, it was just as packed as it can be, and that was always a great time. The fireworks every year, and we haven't had them now in Maplewood for a year or 2 now. So
the budget cutbacks and that, and of course, you know, Hazelwood has served as a venue, but. We'll see what happens. And but over by Coleman Lake, that's a wonderful area with a lot of history as well.
Yep, a lot of history there. Yep. There was a hotel, Coleman Hotel, was right on Coleman, between Coleman and Jarvis, and you know, that was a main place for people to go to. You know, people talk about going up north to their cabins. Well, back in the 1800s, they went up north to Jarvis Lake.
Yes.
That was up north. So you know, they had really nice. I wouldn't even call them cabins, but they were more like summer homes around Lake Jarvis, and they, you know, they row their boats and, you know, dine at Coleman's Hotel, and you know, so that was a big hangout there too. So
wonderful. And members of your family like to, you know, tell us about that, and they share.
You know, my wife Nancy grew up in Maplewood too. She grew up in the Hazelwood area, and
how about that?
You know, she wound up only being about a mile away from where she grew up. So she lived in Maplewood longer than me, so she can always say, well, I lived in Maplewood longer than you. So, but and my sons go to Weaver Elementary, and you know, and so they're fans of history too. They know all about Gladstone. You know, my sons Charlie and Ben, they know more about Gladstone. I think probably most people do, because they got to put up with me when I talk about it. And I have a bulletin board on Faust Avenue I maintain, so they always say I have to write something on the bulletin board and things like that.
Pete Boulay, thank you so much for taking us down memory lane, for your contributions to the city, to the state, preserving history, and it's very motivating to hear all these wonderful stories. Look forward to meeting with you again to talk about some more. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Viewers, I encourage you to contact the Historical Society or the Commission to find out more, or contact Pete directly. Maybe you'll see him over on a walking tour in Gladstone or over at the Bruntrip Farm. Questions for me, give me a call. My cell, 651-770-0283. For Your Capital What's Up, I'm Chuck Wiger. Thank you very much for watching.